How are you coping? How are you coping at the moment? It's a weird time. I know you've got the Facebook live shows and supporting the NHS, which is amazing. How are you yourself coping though? How are you feeling?
Yeah, all right. I mean, sort of doing the best I can, really. It's a strange time for everybody. I mean, at the beginning of all of this, I sort of was telling myself, well, it's a great love that we're all in this together. I'm not sure that's true, actually. Obviously, some people are finding this much harder than others, depending on your situation in life. I'm fortunate enough to live in a house that I like with a little bit of outdoor space with my wife and with my cat. You know, and things could be a lot worse. So I'm doing my best to keep a brave face in the whole thing.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And people have been responding and engaging with you on Facebook and stuff. And I wanted to ask you, you know, obviously your music's been able to reach and inspire many people. So what kind of message have you got for people that do find your music inspiring and do kind of draw some motivation from you on how to get through things, whether it's listening to music or what are you finding helpful, for example?
Music is helpful. I mean, you know, I've been reading a lot. I've been trying to keep busy with projects around the place. I mean, in terms of messages that sent out to people, you know, hopefully the songs cover that. And beyond that, I mean, it's a funny thing. Like I'm as unused to the situation as anybody else. You know what I mean? It's very very strange for all of us. I don't have any inside information on how to handle this better, particularly. But I mean, I guess the one thing I would say is that, like, you know, for myself, like for a lot of people, have been kind of saying, you know, it's time to get stuff done and to you know, do little projects and be creative and write music or whatever it might be. I think it's okay to have days where you don't feel productive. Do you know what I mean? I have good days and bad days, and some days I get a lot done, and some days I don't. And at the beginning, I was really hard on myself on days when I didn't get stuff done, and I'm trying to like remember that it's okay to have days where you just sort of don't get matches done because it's fucking hard.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You know, it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. Like, so I work with a lot of people with disabilities and mental health issues, supporting them into music projects and stuff. And I wanted to kind of ask you if you've got any kind of, because obviously you contribute to artist music. You've obviously listened to loads and loads of bands and been able to support other bands. You know, everything from like Frightened Rabbit to Ruben and stuff. Do you have like a song or a couple of go-to songs that you use for motivation, whether it's, you know, one of your own or another artist?
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I think, you know, I'm a music nerd as much as I'm anything else, so I've definitely got tunes that keep me going. I mean, off the top of my head, I'd say that there's a song by the Mountain Goat called This Year that's my go-to motivation song a lot of the time. But beyond that, actually, I'm a big fan of Nina Simone and I Ain't Got No, I Got Life.
Yeah.
Really, really uplifting tune.
Beautiful. Anything by Nina Simone, man, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you as well, because obviously you've been able to tour the world over the last few years. Obviously you've got this live record coming out in Newcastle, and people really obviously engage with you on numerous levels. How do you define success these days, and how has that changed for you over the years? Because you've been from playing sweaty venues in Million Dead to like playing all over the place in arenas and stuff with the Sleeping Souls. So like, what does success mean to you now versus maybe when you started out being in bands and stuff?
I mean, you know, I've had a long career to date, and I'm very grateful for that. And it's an unusual thing, you know. I've got 8 studio albums out, and I can still play arenas, and that's an unusual thing in this day and age. You know what I mean? So I'm very grateful for that. I mean, on some levels, my definition of success is twofold, and it's the same as it's always been. The one level is that I don't have to have another job to support myself. That still seems insane to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I pay my rent through playing music. That's fucking mad.
Yeah, dude.
And then the other thing is, it's more like philosophically, but arguably more importantly, is that like I can stand behind all the music I put out into the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I make records in, but I'd like to think I'm still pushing myself, challenging myself, trying to say new things, trying to make new sound, and I'm not repeating myself. I'm not like marking time or just going through the motions or anything like that. As long as I can sort of say that to myself honestly, then I feel good about what I do.
Absolutely, mate. It's a wonderful position to be in, and like I say, congratulations on getting to this point. I did want to ask you as well, because a lot of people we work with, they struggle for motivation, and they do have a lot of bad days, like you say. And you know, I wanted to ask you to go into a bit more detail, if you can, on, you know, what when you're having a bad day and when you're really struggling, you know, what do you use to draw motivation from? Whether it's specific people, obviously you mentioned you got your cat and everything, and your family members. What is it, specific people and places that you know, when you struggle to get out of bed in the morning, if that happens for you, Where does that motivation come from?
Well, I mean, one of the things that it sounds trivial, but actually, like I have found that often in my life that pets are a great thing for mental health. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a creature that just sort of continues buzzing around in the way that it always does, that requires your care and attention, and it takes you out of yourself, and that's definitely a useful thing for me. I mean, in terms of like when I have days where I'm feeling stuck, there are things I'll do whether it's listen to music. Quite often I'll try and listen to music that I don't know at all. Do you know what I mean? To really expand my own listening. And
Yeah.
I'll just listen to the same shit over and over again, try and find something completely new, find some new sounds, and that can take time, that can be difficult. But just, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, make sure you don't get stuck. It's just doing the same thing over and over again, I find is a useful thing. But the main thing as well, I sort of touched on this earlier, but to go into it a bit more, is being gentle with yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
dude.
think that a lot of people, myself included, you sort of tend to have much harsher standards for yourself than you do for other people. Do you know what I mean? You could look at somebody else's life and be really understanding and be really forgiving, and then when you find yourself in a similar situation, you punish yourself for it and you get really critical of yourself, really down on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not an easy thing to do, but to try and remember to be as gentle with yourself as you would be with somebody else who you love is an important thing, and that's in a way that's a roundabout way of saying you've got to love yourself, which I think is true. But just sort of trying to make sure that you don't get too harsh with yourself. Do you know what I mean? And as I was saying, it is okay to have days where you don't get anything done. It is okay to have a day when things just don't come together. And obviously, if you have a lot of those in a row, then you might have an issue you need to deal with. But if you just have a day every now and again where it doesn't come together for you, where you don't really get out of bed properly or achieve things, particularly in lockdown now, I think that's the thing that we need to be forgiving of ourselves for doing.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. It's a difficult process, but like I say, if you could find that through, whether it's listening to music or taking time for yourself, I think that's really important. It's a good point you make. Talking about, again, sort of focusing on the challenges and stuff, obviously the perception of you now, and obviously with you paying your rent with music, and obviously you've achieved a level of success, people might assume that you've got it fairly easy, and obviously you don't need to struggle for much, but obviously that's not always the case. So what would you say the biggest challenges that you face, whether it's on a career level, professionally or personally, what are the biggest challenges you face at the moment?
On a career level, I mean, the main thing for me at this point is sort of first of all, sustaining what I do. Do you know what I mean? Like, the music industry is a fickle place,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of other musicians out there. There's endless musicians who've come up since I started doing what I do, who are great and who are worth listening to. And just sort of trying to present yourself in a way to the world that's like, why should somebody listen to my 8th album? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've got to justify that, and both to myself and to my audience, and that's the thing I think about a lot, and just sort of try to make sure that what I do isn't kind of repetitive, and it remains relevant both to me and the audience is a challenge, and something I think about a lot, and just trying to sustain it, and it can be a challenge as well, the fact that now there's 11 people who make their full-time living working with me on my touring, and there's more people that are on a label side of things and all the rest of it, and that can be precious sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think to myself, I don't really feel like touring for a few months, but if I don't, then there's a whole bunch of people who aren't going to make any money, and that can be a challenge, On a personal level, I mean, I had my ups and downs with my mental health and with addiction issues, which has been something that's been quite hard for me over the years.
Yeah.
And I think anybody who's had addiction issues knows that it's a constant daily thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not a thing that you switch on. It's not something you deal with and then just park and it's over. Every day is a day where you contemplate the issues that have troubled you in the past, and you have to kind of talk to yourself and talk to those issues. And that is a thing that I deal with a lot on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with me. A couple more questions before we finish. Now, obviously, you've obviously got a lot to look forward to in the future, but I wanted to ask you, obviously it goes similar question to the motivation thing. What things make you happy? What things do you find, whether it is just sitting down, whether it is writing music in a studio, whether it is, touring, what things, truly make you happy?
I mean, the number one thing that makes me happy is playing a show. I absolutely fucking love being on a stage in front of an audience, doing my best to entertain a room full of people. It's the one thing in the world that I can confidently say that I've got some skill at doing. I fucking love it, and I hope it's a thing that I can do for the rest of my life. I mean, beyond that, this is a bit of a cliche in a way, but it's because I think it's true, is that, like, happiness is a process
Amazing.
Very happy.
Amazing, man. Yeah, congratulations again. Just going to fit one more in. Well, we've got a couple more minutes. I'm fascinated with you particularly because you've, like I say, you've got these bands. You've got Mongol Horde. You've obviously had Million Dead. You've played all kinds of different venues. And I wanted to ask you, you've obviously been asked questions about activism when you're working, supporting the NHS. So you've kind of changed and developed, I guess, from the start of your career being in punk bands to now. How would you say that you as a person have progressed and developed? Through the music that you've made and through the creative processes that you've been through, what have you learned about yourself and how have you changed over the years from the start of your career until now?
I mean, that's a big question. And the first thing I'd say is that I hope that I have changed over the years. I mean, there's a funny old thing. There's a lot of people who want artists that they like to remain the exact same person they were on the day that they discovered them. And to me, the idea that I could have gone out and done 2,400 shows over the last 15 years, whatever it is, and come back the exact same person just seems like that's just insane. That would in fact represent me being kind of like stupid to my mind. You know what I mean? I think that one of the things I've learned over the years is doubt in a good way. Do you know what I mean? I think that anyone with half a brain should doubt themselves all the time and doubt what you think you know about the world and how it works.
Yeah.
I was definitely a lot more kind of cocksure about politics and stuff like that when I was younger. And I think about politics and the world and philosophy and all that kind of thing regularly, just the same as everybody else does. But I think that I've learned that to be less kind of like brash about it. Do you know what I mean? Is to try and listen more than speak. There's endless parts of the world that I know nothing about, and it's a good thing to recognise that and to be humble in your opinions. So those are the main things for me.
Absolutely, mate. Well, thank you ever so much for your time. I know you've got some more stuff coming up, so I really appreciate you sharing with me today, and I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon, mate. All right.
You too, man.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.